Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by A.G. Hines Company, manufactured stone that looks exactly like the real thing, exterior finishing systems that look like brick, wood, stucco, all built with built-in drainage systems, Nudura concrete forms for sturdy, energy-efficient build. Whatever your project, A.G. Hines Company has materials to make it look good, of course, but also to make it cost efficient, to make it energy efficient. A.G. Hines Company has been doing this for more than a century. They know what they're doing, in other words. aghines.com to learn more. Get down there, see Gordon Hines or any of his kids or any of the other folks who work down there. 4 generations at A.G. Hines Company. Visit them this week in downtown Knoxville. All right, we're glad to have a visit in downtown Knoxville from this gentleman right here, Mike Strange. Mike, thanks for being with us, buddy.
It's good to see you guys.
You have you retired from the Sentinel a few years ago. You retired from the show, I think, during the COVID outbreak in 2020. Try to lure you back on occasion, so I appreciate you doing this today,
it's
my
good.
friend.
It's good to be back. It's fun.
Well, we want to talk about who Tennessee is opening with. They've got the Virginia Cavaliers expected to finish at or near the bottom of the 14-team ACC. It's their first game since they had to cancel their last 2 games last year due to the tragic shooting death of 3 of their players. Danny White said this week on Vol Calls that it was important for Tennessee to cancel that game at BYU, pay them $2 million, and then play Virginia in Nashville. It's easier for fans, because apparently UT fans don't like to travel. I never got that. I thought they travel all over. They don't like to travel. And it also helps to fill their coffers because Tennessee's, they only made $200 million last year.
Wow.
They're hurting. So anyway, Virginia is coming to Nashville. Mike, you covered a lot of openers from 83 to 2017. You've seen good teams. You've seen bad teams. You've seen teams that were underestimated that came in here, like Appalachian State put a scare into the balls.
Yes.
You'd already walked away from the Sentinel, but you remember Georgia State coming in here and beating Tennessee.
Yes.
Is Virginia any kind of a threat? Are we underestimating Virginia, or no, they're pretty terrible?
Virginia, Tennessee would be a great opener if it was basketball season. It would be an ugly game, 48-45, the way they play.
Yes.
But for football, John, it sounds good, an ACC team. But from everything I read and study, I can't see anything that makes me feel like this is going to be a real game.
I'd rather see Virginia Tech if you're going to play a Virginia team, rather than Virginia. Are we underestimating them? You don't think so,
I don't
obviously.
think so, no. I think Virginia's going to be a bad team. I think this is one of those, like if you're in another conference, let's play Mississippi State. It's an SEC team. That's kind of what Virginia is, in my opinion, from the ACC right now.
Except they're worse than Mississippi State.
They are definitely
by
worse.
far.
Well, Mississippi State's actually not that bad.
Right.
Virginia's pretty terrible, and they're coming
This would be like Vanderbilt.
a huge tragedy as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can't even fathom where that team's going to be, what the mentality is for that team, what the roster looks like now after that happened. No, I think the 28.5 is about right for where Vegas has it.
Well, let me give you some numbers, and we'll have you the Cavaliers line a little later. We'll see if Chucky Cenote agrees with Vegas. But last year, Virginia was 126th out of. That's not it. Take that down, please. We're jumping way ahead. Let's get that graphic out of there. Last year, Virginia was 126th out of 131 schools in scoring. 126 out of 131. They averaged 17 points per game. That'll keep up with Tennessee. 102nd in rushing offense, 81st in passing offense. Last year, they were 49th in scoring defense, not bad, 24 points a game, 71st in rushing defense, 30th in passing defense. Can anybody take those numbers and make a case for Virginia even keeping this thing close?
I can make
Bob
a
Chuck?
case
Yes.
for Virginia getting off to a good start. I think some of what Will said, the tragedy last year, they haven't played, 2 games in. They didn't have a bowl game, obviously, last year. I think that can carry them and give them that, by golly, let's go out there and show them what we're made of. And then I think it'll fade. I think it'll be a close game for 12 minutes.
Yeah, defensively, I mean, they may be decent. They're not terrible.
Yeah.
But how long can they hang, with Tennessee's up-tempo offense? I mean, I looked. Did you see where they brought their quarterback in from?
Monmouth?
Monmouth. And raise your hand if you know where that is. I had to Google where Monmouth is. Okay. It's in New Jersey, right? So, I mean, and you're bringing in a
Right
quarterback.
next to Dartmouth.
Right next to Dartmouth. But you're bringing in
And the
a
other myths.
quarterback from a lower level. I think, like Bob said, I think Virginia almost has to have a shot play early. I think they got to have something go just absolutely right off the bat.
Is the bigger threat here not Virginia, but Tennessee not getting off on the hot foot with a new quarterback and a backup center in there if Cooper May doesn't play? To me, if this is close, you said they could hold for a little while. If they do, I think it's going to say more about Tennessee than it does Virginia. I think it's going to be more about, is Joe Milton ready to go? Is he a little too hyped?
Are you too hyped up?
Yeah,
Yes, exactly.
I think the bigger issue here is possibly on Tennessee rather than Virginia.
I'm anxious to get into the second quarter because I think that's when Tennessee ought to just bury him. I give Virginia that, hey, let's go get them guys at the start.
Yeah.
But in the second quarter, if Tennessee hadn't buried them at halftime, yeah, then I think maybe you do have some issues.
I do wonder about Tennessee for this game. Have you been smelling yourselves? Are you reading all the headlines? And how much Cobra Kai dojo do you have in you? Right? Is Tennessee willing to just go destroy this team like they can destroy this team? Because they have been as hyped as anybody in college football this offseason. So I do wonder about that. Is there the killer instinct there for Tennessee to put this team away quickly?
Let's say it's a blowout. So Tennessee wipes the field with them. What do you want to see from Tennessee, though? Is it Milton? Is that the number one thing, or is it
And Nico.
Nico? If it's a blowout, you want to see Nico. Is there anything that
I
you
want
to
to
see in
see
terms
if there's more talk about Tennessee's defense.
Right.
I want to
Good point.
see if Tennessee's defense has taken a step
But see,
forward.
I'm not going to take anything away from their defense in this game because of the offensive numbers John read. Their offense is horrible. I don't think you can. If Tennessee shuts them out, it's like shutting out Vandy last year. Who cares? They're terrible. What I want to take away is one of the receivers, because you've lost your two big studs. I want to see what the receivers do, and I want to see the running backs. I mean,
It's
so
all offensive line.
To me, it's all offense.
It's all offensive line.
Worry about
specifically for me.
defense come Florida.
Defensively, how often can you get there with 4 and apply pressure to the quarterback without having a blitz? That's one big thing that I
But
want
see,
to
I
see
think
for
even
Tennessee.
but Virginia's bad. So if you can, that doesn't translate.
All right, tell you
necessarily.
what, now we can go ahead and show that graphic. If we can get back to that graphic. I went back and looked at this. I'm calling it, and we got to get the font off there. Have cash, won't travel. Out-of-state non-conference games for Tennessee. Look, I went back 30 seasons, and then we're going to look at the next 15 in a minute. But 30 seasons from 79 to 2008, you went out of state for a non-conference team 21 times. 4 trips to Georgia Tech, 4 to UCLA in Los Angeles, 3 to Notre Dame, 2 to Boston College. You also went to LA to play USC, to New Jersey to play Rutgers. You opened at Louisville. You opened at Syracuse. You had a late season game at Miami. You opened at Cal. You had a season opener in East Rutherford up there in New York against Iowa. Season opener against Colorado out in Anaheim. All right, let's see the last 15 seasons. Not exactly the same. You played at Oregon, at Oklahoma, at Pitt, and then you've played NC State at Atlanta, Georgia Tech in Atlanta, West Virginia and Charlotte. And coming up in the next 8 years, you've got NC State back in Atlanta, West Virginia back in Charlotte. You do have road games on the docket right now at Nebraska, at Washington, which is good. I applaud that. I hope they continue to do that. But Mike Strange, in terms of this whole it's easier for travel thing, I think Val fans like to travel. I think they always have.
They do, and as a media guy, I like to travel.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, they canceled trips to New Mexico back in the 80s and to Wyoming, and it brought Wyoming to Nashville. I don't know,
okay, I'd forgotten
whenever
that.
that was. So
And then they canceled. The reason I put the split where I did is that's right where Tennessee first started this. They bought their way out of the North Carolina game. Remember that? And they put Buffalo in.
Yes.
Then a couple of years ago they bought Army out. That was here, and that was last year. And then they've bought out BYU this year. So it's a clear change. And
it was about 2002, I think, that they brought Wyoming to Nashville rather than go out there.
okay, interesting stuff. And I just remind you the reason I put that up there: 60% of you, 59% of you, when we did a poll back on July 30th, 59% of you said that UT scheduling was either below par or embarrassing. So, nothing wrong with a good road trip. And I think BYU would have been a much better test than Virginia, and you would have gotten a lot more media coverage if you'd done that. All right.
Especially with a couple of BYU transfers, right?
Yeah. All right. When we come back, I'm going to talk to Will West here. We're going to go through some players that might not be the stars. We're not going to throw out stars' names. Who are the most important players for this season that Tennessee either needs to step up or that we think will step up or could be a liability? key names that aren't necessarily your starters. That's next. We're still going to do season predictions. We got to talk about the 98 team, Cavaliers line, much more to come on the Sports Source. Come on back.